Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast. This is Bruce Hutchin, host and executive producer. Each week, you will hear tips, techniques, strategies, and personal stories from some of the best and funniest whitetail hunters in North America. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you do, tell a friend on social media. If not, tell me and I'll make it better. Thanks for listening, folks. Hey, folks, we're going to head up to northern Minnesota. And by northern Minnesota, from where Dylan Porter is, you can see the Canadian border. And Dylan works for his dad, Steve Porter, and they grow trophy whitetails. And they get in the business, his dad got in the business a long time ago, and now it's grown and grown and grown. But even more important than that, one, he's got some tips and techniques about using deer urine. I'm not talking about Estes urine. I'm talking about deer urine. And you're going to have to listen to the show. I don't want to give away any secrets, but he's going to knock your socks off with some insights that maybe you just haven't thought about. And the other thing Dylan's doing is Minnesota Monster Buck Classic. And it's going to be a big buck classic. He's going to have some of his dad's deer on display. Yes, they take live deer and they display them at these sportsman shows. So, all in all, Dylan Porter's got one heck of an interview coming up. Can't wait to share it. Whitetail Rendezvous. We're heading up to the corner of Minnesota, North Dakota, and the Canadian border. Yeah, we're a long way from nowhere, but that's just like Dylan Porter likes. And he works for his dad at Porter's Trophy Whitetails. Also, Dylan is the founder of Minnesota Monster Buck Classic. Dylan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited, and a good friend. Here comes a shout out for John O'Brien at Grandpa Ray Outdoors, and John referred me to you and said, he thought you'd be a great guest. And in the warm up, we talked about a lot of different things. So I'm excited to get right into it. And let's start right off with the Minnesota Monster Buck Classic. What it is, where it is, and why you started it.
Okay, well, the Minnesota Monster Buck Classic is going to be a sportsman show that will be located in Perham, Minnesota. Perham is kind of a more rural area, but it's just, it's within an hour of Fargo. It's 20 minutes from Detroit Lakes. It's not that far from a bunch of big towns. And the people of Perham, Minnesota really enjoy their hunting. So we're gonna have the live trophy whitetail bucks that we travel with at that show, and we're gonna do things a little bit different. We're not gonna have any boats, campers, or RVs at the show. We want to dedicate the show floor space to the smaller mom and pop run companies, guides, gear, outfitters, anything and everything to do with hunting and fishing. We're going to have at the show. So we're still booking vendors now if anybody's interested in that. And we're going to have a lot of stuff going on there. We even have we're going to do a live dog demonstration, a working dog. We're going to have bird dogs, hounds for coon and coyote hunting, and the pointers, retrievers, and we're even going to try to get a canine unit on scene to show what dogs learn and how they work with people.
Now, why did you start this? What was the impetus to get, hey, I want to have a Monster Buck Classic?
Well, my dad's been traveling with our whitetail deer display since 1997, and we've been to probably over 100 sportsman shows in that time with the live whitetail bucks. We've been to over 100 schools in the Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and North Dakota area, and we've been to probably 50 or 60 small stores with the whitetail bucks. And we've been to enough events where we have an understanding of how they're run, and we want to see if we can do it better. So we figured we're expecting all these show promoters to pay us a nice check to come to a show as a paid attraction. Why don't we have our own show?
And that was basically it, huh?
That's pretty much it. It's why not, and let's see if we can do it.
Now, Prim, I kind of sort of know where that is. So some people are going to have to drive a ways to get there. Is that correct?
That is correct. And from what we've seen, people are not afraid of driving an hour to 2 hours to come and see the deer. We've gone to, there's an event we go to every year in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. People will tell us they'll drive an hour to 2 hours just to come see the bucks at Glenn's Army Navy store in Grand Rapids.
Well, I salute you, and I know it's going to be fun. Now, again, the location and the date, please.
The location is in Perham, Minnesota. That's Perham, I believe. And the dates are going to be January 12th through the 14th of 2018. So if there's anybody that's interested in being a vendor at that event, we're still booking booths. Booths are running $395 for an 8x10. But if you book early enough, I'll be a little more flexible on the booth space, and it is a first year show. And then if anybody wants to attend the show, entrance fee, I think we're setting it at about $8 for an adult. 12 and under is free, and we may even do a discount for veterans and police force.
Well, that's great. You know, your family's been into whitetails. I think you said 1992. Your dad started raising whitetails, and what was it like growing up in a whitetail family? Literally.
I can't imagine anything different. I've enjoyed it every step of the way. Ever since I was able to hold a bottle, I was born in 1994. So when I was 3 years old, I was helping dad feed the fawns. And we didn't have a lot of deer for a long time. We were normally 20, 30, 40 deer. And then about 2000, we got up to 60 deer. And it got a little bit busier. But I've enjoyed growing up on the farm, working on the farm, working with my dad almost every day.
Now, do you sell these deer for breeding, or is it just a hunting operation? Tell me the business end of it if you can.
Okay, we do a little bit of everything. So we do things that most deer farmers don't do. As far as we know right now, we're the only people that travel with the live whitetails. And when I mean live, we actually bring 3 live bucks in a trailer, custom built trailer, to sportsman shows around the country. And we've had people think we're bringing head mounts. They're actually live deer. So we do that, and as far as we know, nobody else does that. We collect and sell doe urine that we ship all over the country, and we freeze it upon collection. We can get into that a little bit more later. We do sell fawns, does, bucks to people who want to start raising whitetails or change their genetics. We sell antler pieces. We sell DVDs that we've made. We have a poster that we put together. We sell a little bit of everything. And then we also do run hunts on our own property.
Let's talk about a hunt. Um, Somebody, even Minneapolis, can they fly up to you guys, or do they have to drive from X?
It depends what they want to do. Minneapolis is about a 6 hour drive south. So if, from the farm, you gotta go south 6 hours or so to get to the Minneapolis. We have a lot of guys drive up, but they could fly in potentially to Thief River Falls is probably the closest place that you could fly into, and that's 45 minutes from the farm. So you could fly into there, and then it's a quick little drive right up to the farm. And we'd even pick people up if they flew into Thief River Falls, and I believe it's actually only like 50, $60 a trip, and they do flights to Minneapolis every day.
Wow.
So
Now, do you have a lodge where you house people that come in to see the deer or hunt the deer?
we actually haven't up until as of yesterday. We actually went and got a camper from one of our friends. It's a huge camper, 30 plus foot, I think. And we're gonna have our hunters staying in that this year. And we do have an idea for putting up a lodge in the works. It's just getting the money together and deciding on where to put it.
Yeah, because there probably isn't too many Holiday Inns or Hampton Inns, in the neighborhood.
Yeah, there is a couple of smaller hotels, but they're about 20 minutes away. We
That's
really
great.
are out in the middle of nowhere.
Now it's all high fence, so you don't have to worry about the wolves, right?
Exactly. Yep. It is 8 foot high fence, but it's 140 acres, roughly a 2 mile perimeter, over 1,000 telephone poles, 4 feet in the ground. And the fence isn't there necessarily to keep the bucks in one area to make it easier to hunt them. The fence is there to allow them to mature. That's actually why we started deer farming in the first place. My dad got sick of seeing the yearling bucks get killed by a car or a coyote or a wolf or our neighbor, and he wanted to see a buck mature. So that's where we have the fence, is to allow the bucks to mature and keep them safe from the wolves, coyotes, our neighbors, cars on the road. We want to allow a buck to mature to a harvestable size before we actually harvest it.
Now, is it a 3 day hunt, 2 day hunt? If I come up from Minneapolis, and I'm saying Minneapolis because that's what I think is the largest, closest largest city, to you.
It's probably, yeah, it's the largest one in the state. Fargo is 3 hours. Grand Forks is an hour and a half. Those are probably the only other cities that people really have heard of. How the hunts normally work is if you book a hunt, you're actually guaranteed a buck at that point. So you're guaranteed a buck, whether it takes you a year or you get it the first day or you have to come back repeatedly at no extra cost. So after you give us a down payment, whether you get a buck the first day, the fourth day, whatever, however long your hunt ends up being, if you don't get one, you can come back every year until you harvest an animal at no further cost.
So if I'm really picky, and we know what hit lists are, so on the hit list, I sit and talk to you and say, okay, X, Y, or Z, and if I don't see X, Y, or Z, so then hey, come on back when you can.
Exactly. Yep. So the guy we actually have coming to hunt this weekend, He is coming back for a second time. He hunted 5 days last year for one specific deer. The buck he was after was a 3-year-old deer that scored roughly 220s and definitely weighed over 300 pounds. He did not see that deer. We had 7 hunters last year, and it was a hot season, so we actually ended up hunting quite a bit for 7 people. And that buck has been seen for exactly 30 seconds from a tree stand in daylight hours in 2 years now. So he said he's going to come back.
No
He's on.
way.
It's unbelievable. It's in 140 acres, but the buck simply disappears. So the
Well,
guy
they're
coming up,
there. Wait a minute,
he's
wait a minute,
there.
wait a minute, Dylan. Time out, time out, time out. So, folks, there's some listeners saying, nowhere, no way, no how, but that's how stealthy or wily, whatever you want to call it, a whitetail buck is, because here we have a controlled environment. Let's just put it that way, a controlled environment. And if that deer doesn't want to move, he's not going to come past that stand, and you have one picture, of him. So
It, it,
let's talk about all your years of hunting. Why do bucks know they're pressured and they just shut it down, and they could be laying 50 yards from that guy's stand and he'll never see it.
there's so many things going on. For one thing, once the velvet comes off and they polish their antlers, their testosterone levels are starting to climb. But if you got a few bucks in your area, and let's say your big buck, he doesn't necessarily feel like he's the dominant buck. He maybe doesn't have as high a testosterone level as the younger bucks. They'll actually pout. They'll just start getting picked on by the other bucks, and they'll just disappear. We've had bucks disappear for 3 months in our preserve, and no trail cam pictures. Nobody sees them. They don't come up to the feeders. Nothing. They'll just completely disappear because they're getting picked on by another buck. Sometimes you have to get the dominant buck out of the area before they'll even move. So there's a lot of things that go into it. And number one, bucks feel very comfortable. So if you're the type of hunter who uses a four-wheeler frequently, which we do, and your deer are used to hearing a four-wheeler drive around, they will actually lay there 50 yards away, 50 feet away, and just listen to the four-wheeler drive by and not get up and move because they're used to hearing a four-wheeler. You have to do something out of the ordinary to get them to spook if that's what you want them to do. I've actually literally almost stepped on bucks, not in the fence, outside of the fence when we're doing our own hunting. They'll just lay there, and if you don't stop or act suspicious, they'll actually let you walk right up on them occasionally.
And everybody, says, oh, the lockdown period, especially during the rut, the buck go and hide and stuff. And one piece of evidence that you just said, some bucks get intimidated. There's no
Yep.
question about it. And then they say, I'm not going to get my butt kicked anymore. I'm just going to go hide. And they have a place they can go down, lay down, and they can get food and water, and they're perfectly safe, and they're going to stay there.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you have multiple bucks in your area that may be dominant, or if you have a dominant buck in your area, and he may not be the biggest, but the one you're after, he maybe isn't even there anymore. Sometimes, if you have a dominant buck in your area, the smaller or the bigger, depending on the situation, bucks will actually leave. They'll leave 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 miles to go find a place where they can be dominant. So we've shot bucks on our property during hunting season that we've never seen the buck before. They just appear, not inside the fence, but they appear when we're hunting. And our neighbor will say, "Oh, we saw that buck 3 miles from there. We've been watching him all summer." And then he just shows up on our property.
Interesting. Now, you just mentioned something. So when you hunt, you're hunting outside the fence.
Yep.
And then how many acres you guys have on your farm?
We own 280, and then, like I said, 140 that is fenced for the preserve hunting. So we own
So
quite a bit.
so when you start thinking about hunting, do you archery hunt and rifle hunt your farm?
On the farm, so growing up, I did a lot of archery hunting. I don't as much as anymore because at this time of year, right before archery season starts, I am so busy with everything that's going on and guiding hunts. So I definitely rifle hunt and then muzzleload actually if I get an opportunity. But I have hunted all three in a single year before trying to get a buck.
So what are your tips? What are your top 5 tips that you'd like to share with my listeners about, hunting wild bucks, not the ones in the farm, but the ones, on the other 140?
Number one, scent control. That is by far the most important thing you can do is scent control. You can fool a deer's eyes and you can fool their ears. If you're sitting in a tree stand bow hunting and they see you move, you sit still, they might think, oh, it was just a squirrel or it was a bird and it's nothing to worry about. If they hear you, you can often fool their ears. And they'll again think it's just a bird or a squirrel or the wind blowing something around, and they might not get worried about it. But if they smell you, that's it. So keep yourself scent free as possible is the number one thing you can do. Especially bow hunting. Rifle hunting is not as fussy because you can reach out and touch them, but bow hunting, scent, 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 scent. That's the number one thing. Number two, get on stand early. I uh, we built a stand when I was younger. When I was 13, my dad built me a box stand, and we border 2,000 acres of state land. And I would get up opening day of season, get dressed. My clothes are all hanging outside, scent free. Go out, climb up in my box stand, and I would be there 45 minutes to an hour before daylight. And about 20 minutes after the sun comes up, we would have people walking by us on stay land, finally going out to their stands. If you're not on stand before daylight, that can actually ruin your whole hunt because they'll hear you walking through the woods and they'll see you. And now if they hear you and see you, they're gonna leave. But if you go in the dark, they don't know if it's a person or if it's a moose or it's a bear. They don't know what's walking through the area. Deer feel so comfortable in the dark. So get on stand early, get off stand late. We like to sit at least a half hour past legal shooting hours, a half hour past dark to remain hidden again. You don't want the deer to see you climbing into your stand, that you don't want them to see you climbing out of your stand. They can remember that. If you can have somebody drop you off on a four-wheeler, if that's a viable option in your area, that is a huge benefit. If the deer are used to seeing four-wheelers, they can't do math. So they don't know that the four wheeler drove to the stand with two people and then left with one. They have no idea how many people are on the four wheeler. They just know the four wheeler came and the four wheeler went. So that's something you can use to your advantage as well. Is if you drive four wheeler on your property all year long, keep doing that in deer season. The deer aren't going to think anything of it. We've literally seen and shot deer 5 minutes after the four wheeler has left the stand.
Isn't that something? Because they were right there watching the four wheel go by. I
Yep.
mean, 5 minutes, unless they're trotting through the woods, they were there because they just were there. It's amazing what whitetails teach us all the time, and how much the experts think they know about them, and then when it comes down to push and shove, yes, they know some stuff. There's no question about it. But when you put the whole thing together, there's all these moving parts to be very successful year after year after year.
No,
That's
for
my
sure.
that's my 2 cents. Now you talked to me early on. You don't use estrus urine. What's up with that?
We don't collect and we don't use estrus urine, and it's actually really simple when you think about it. When a buck smells doe urine, they have two different scent chambers in their nose. We actually have a video on our Facebook page and our website where we actually have a cross section of a buck's skull. So they have two different chambers where they can smell things. When a buck does a normal inhale, he's smelling with one chamber. So when he does a normal inhale, just like you and I, he can smell doe urine, he can smell gun oil, he can smell your dog, he can smell what you had for breakfast, he can smell everything when he does a normal inhale. But he has no idea if that doe's in heat. He can't tell. He can't tell if a doe's in heat until he does what's called a flaming curl. Have you seen that before?
Uh-huh.
Where they curl their upper lip and they kind of hold their head back and they have a weird look in their eyes, but that's when they're checking to see if it does in heat. They can't do that until they have their nose on the puddle or the source of the urine. They have to have a strong concentrated source of urine. I could dump a gallon of urine out in front of a buck, and if he can't bend down and smell it, he has no idea if that doe is in heat. He can't tell. So when they do that flaming curl, they're actually sending the doe urine directly to their brain to check for pheromones. So with that in mind, their long range receptor, when they do a normal inhale, that's the only thing you need to fool. You don't need to have estrus urine. So when they do the normal inhale, they can smell doe urine. They're going to come in to find that doe urine to see if that doe's in heat. So estrus urine, pheromones don't even matter because he can't tell until he's already at the base of your tree stand.
Okay, so let's back up here because he's inhaling doe urine. He doesn't know what it is because it doesn't do the flaming or the lip curl or whatever, and it goes up and they could, isn't the brain amazing how it takes those chemicals apart?
It's
Think about that.
incredible.
Think about that because sheep do it, elk do it. I don't know the right name of the class of animals, but anyway, they all do it because that's how they procreate and pass on their genes. I mean, it's important, to them. But having said that, Mr. Buck, he comes, he takes a sniff, and he goes, "Oh, that's doe urine." Now he has to put his nose right in the urine to check it to see if she's ready.
Exactly. Yeah. He
Is that
can't tell from
basically it?
100. That's it. He can't tell from 100 yards away. He can't tell from 10 feet if she's in the heat or not. He has to physically put his nose in the puddle of doe urine or on her behind or on her hocks where she's peed on herself to find out if she's in heat or not.
Amazing. And look what the marketing has done.
It's incredible what marketing can do. I've found that
That's funny.
a lot of the products are marketed more towards hunters than to actual deer. Because when you see a bottle and it says special golden estrus or estrus urine, it's everybody hears estrus and like, oh, estrus, that doe is in heat, the buck's gonna love it. But he can't tell, so it doesn't even matter. Because by the time he can tell, he should be dead unless you're a really bad shot.
Amazing. But through the scent dispersal, so it just wastes down there, and there's enough, in the atmosphere, atoms of doe urine that he can take a whiff of it and go, I'm going to go check that out. But that's the key.
Exactly.
I'm going to check that out. Now, he's not going to check that out all year round, is he? He's only going to check it out during the rut periods.
Actually, they will check it out. Not necessarily all year, but I have bucks scent checking right now, and right now it's late August. I have bucks scent checking right now, and they're still in velvet, but they'll scent check. They just have to find out because they got to put together a calendar in their mind of when each doe is going to come into heat. So they want to start gathering information as soon as they can. Bucks will come in and scent check urine from definitely once they polish their antlers all the way through the till they shed their antlers. Really, they'll scent check urine. So doe urine actually is a good option to use in early bow season, but it gets more effective the closer it gets to the rut. However, once it's in the rut, if a buck is actually on a hot doe, he will not leave her.
Yeah, he's not going.
But
He's not going to go anywhere.
he's not going to leave her. But if you catch a buck in between does with doe urine, he's going to come and find out when does this doe come into heat and when do I need to breed her. And once he does that flaming curl, he knows her exact timing. So they will start gathering information right away as soon as they can.
Isn't that amazing? Just by whiffing, he can tell where her pheromones are and how ripe or ready she is to breed, and they can get it down to a 24-hour period.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And we have bucks. Our main breed buck last year bred 18 does, and he didn't miss. So he knows he can do the math, and he can know when each doe needs to be bred and how much time he needs to spend with that doe to breed her, and then how much time he has before he has to move on to the next one.
Let's go back. So, bucks set checking now, and some bucks set check from top of the ridge, and the does are down on the field, and I get all that. But so if I'm hunting, I'm going to hunt pretty much all of November. So I'm pretty much the rut, and then the post rut. But I'm thinking, early season, why wouldn't you put out just doe urine? Just forget about the estrus, just get some doe urine and put it out.
Well, exactly. And what I'm saying is you don't ever need to use estrus doe urine. Just doe urine will work all the time. So when we collect our doe urine, we just use doe urine. Like I said, I'm collecting right now. It's end of August. The does are definitely not in heat. But if I hold that bottle of urine up to a buck in a week, or even right now, some of them, they will do a flaming curl to find out if that doe's in heat. So there is no reason to ever use estrus urine. Straight up doe urine is going to work every time because the bucks have to come in to find out if she's in heat. So when we collect doe urine, we do things a little different than everybody else. We freeze it upon collection so it doesn't rot or break down, and we collect it fresh every fall. So there's no pheromones, there's no additives, there's nothing in the urine but pure doe urine. Collect it, freeze it, ship it all over the country, and we sell it in 8-ounce bottles because we want people to use more. When a doe goes to the bathroom, she doesn't use 2 or 3 drops from an expensive bottle. She puts out everything she's got to make herself smell pretty. Have you ever seen it when a doe pees on her hocks? They'll pee on their back knees. They do that so the bucks can find them. They're putting their cell phone number out there saying, hey, this is where I'm at. If a doe walks through a field just after peeing her on her knees, a dumb, blind buck could follow that doe through that field without a problem.
Yep.
So you got to emulate that behavior when you're using doe urine. You got to use a lot. More is better. So that's why we sell the 8-ounce bottle because we want people to use more. If you're using more, you're going to be emulating natural behavior and you're going to have better results.
Yeah, that's why I like to use drags at some time in the season, and really I do it right from my truck, and I got quarter mile, maybe more, maybe less, to my stand, and then I'll just put out drag, and it's just urine that I,
Mm-hmm.
that I've got, and it's amazing what will happen. All of a sudden, you see bucks; they'll be crossing it, then they'll spin right around, and I've had them come right up to my tree, and there's no The only thing it's hanging is my drag. I put it in the tree so it waves down. But I found that very effective. Now other people don't, but I think if you use it effectively, just like you said, it's an attractor. It's
Yeah.
an attractant. Basically you're saying, "Here I am. Come check me out." And and if they're doing all this cataloging, then that makes sense. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we've used the drag before, and I know a lot of our clients have used drags before as well with fantastic success. I think if somebody's not having a drag work for them, odds are either a buck didn't cross the trail or they were using a doe urine that wasn't fresh. If it's been sitting on a shelf for any amount of time, it's going to rot and break down. Or if they're not watching their own scent, the buck knows, well, a person just walked here and a doe. So you got to watch your own scent. And cover scents, I don't really believe in cover scents. And the reason why is, let's say you came to my house Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, you came into the house. I blindfolded you, sat you down at the table. We had turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, all the traditional Thanksgiving stuff. And then that's all on the table. And I put a dirty diaper on the table. What are you going to smell? You're going to smell all the Thanksgiving food and the dirty diaper. And if you can pick out those smells with our nose, which isn't near as good as a deer's, what can a deer smell? He can smell
Everything.
everything. You
Yeah.
can't cover your scent. You just got to get rid of. You got to eliminate your scent. So drags work very well. Bucks want to find the does, and if there's an abundance of urine in the area, they want to figure out where that doe is, who she is. They want to get to know her and find out when she's going to be coming into heat. So they're going to follow her until they find her where she peed, or they can get enough urine to do a flaming curl.
Folks, I hope you're taking notes on this because this is some information. I've got 430 shows, and nobody's really talked about the lip curl and the pheromones. Maybe one or two people have talked about the pheromones, but basically, you're out there in the woods, September, whenever your season starts, and you can use doe urine from here on out throughout the whole season, and you're going to track bucks given you don't smell like a turkey dinner or gasoline. I mean, you have to do your job on it, but and then the bucks have to be in the area. See, that's the other thing. Sometimes people hunt where deer aren't. It's
Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing that people hunt where the deer aren't, and they expect to kill a deer. It's like, how does that work?
exactly. You can have the best doe urine in the world. You can have gallons of it, but if there's no deer in the area, you're not going to get anything. It's not going to do you any good at all. I've had a few guys say, I tried your doe urine and it all makes sense what you're saying, but I didn't see a single deer. And then we get to talking and then I'll say, well, you got wolves in your area? Well, yeah, we got lots of wolves. Was there any fresh activity the morning you went hunting? He said, yeah, I walked over 3 or 4 pairs of wolf tracks on my way to my stand. Well, that's why you're not seeing any deer. If you just had wolves in your area, you're not going to have there's no deer within a mile. The deer want wolves. And if the wolves have just moved through, you're not going to see deer.
Yep. No, I agreed on that. Now let's talk about the deer urine. How does somebody get a hold of that? How do they buy it? Where's your website? All that stuff.
Okay, so if somebody wants to order the doe urine, we ship it out frozen all over the country. It will arrive thawed, but we do priority mail shipping. It's 2 to 3 days shipping. If you want to order it, you can go on our website, which is porterwhitetail.com. That's Porter whitetail.com. Or you can go on our Facebook page, look up Steve Porter's Trophy Whitetail on Facebook, and there'll be a link to our website there. Or if you happen to be in Minnesota, there's a few stores in the area that sell it, and we have a list of sales reps that are going to carry the urine and will sell it as well. So you can go on our website, see if there's a store near you, or if one of our sales reps happens to be in your area,
Thanks
and
for
you can
that.
get direct from them.
Sure. Now let's talk about what rifle hunting is today versus what it was when you started when you were just a little kid.
It's changed a lot. When I first started hunting, Dad started me out with a rifle. I actually probably shot my first deer when I was 7, 8, 9 years old. I'd go hunting with Dad. He'd wrap his arms around us. He'd hold the gun, but he'd allow us to aim and pull the trigger. So Dad started us off very young, and I remember early years when we were hunting, the amount of deer we would see back then was phenomenal. We would see 10, 15, 20 deer a night. Uh, and we were actually back then allowed to shoot 5 a person, which I think was a bit much. Our deer numbers right now are really low. So I took my wife hunting, and she's not been hunting before. We went hunting last year, and we saw a total of 5 deer all season. So the deer numbers are way down. But as far as the method I use for rifle hunting now versus what I did back then I just sit over a food plot or a stand with nice shooting lanes and wait for the deer to come to me. What I've changed is once I started archery hunting, which I got really big into when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, I now rifle hunt the way I bow hunt. So when I'm going out to put up a stand, I'll actually go deeper in the woods. We live right next to 2,000 acres of state land. We'll actually go back in there three-quarters of a mile, and set up where you can only shoot 20, 30 yards. Set up just like we're bow hunting. But that's where the bigger bucks are at. They like to hang out back in the woods, away from the people, away from the cars, and away from all the farm equipment, everything that's in the area. So I'd say the biggest change, I hunt like I bow hunt when I'm rifle hunting, if that makes sense.
Sure. Now, are you using hang-ons or are you using ground blinds or what kind of setup do you have?
I've never enjoyed hunting from the ground. I've done it once or twice. I just don't like the vantage point. My personal favorite is a climber stand. I think it's so easy to set up. It's so fast. They're comfortable and they're secure for shooting out of. You got a good rest on there for you to shoot with. So I do prefer the climbing tree stands, whether I'm bow hunting, rifle hunting, or muzzle loading.
And thanks for that. So what do you think the future is for hunting in northern Minnesota with the wolves? Because you're getting hammered. I mean, the wolves are just really taking a toll on the deer herd.
Yeah, the wolves have decimated our deer herd, and there's some interesting math on that as well. I think unless they do something with with the wolves, the future of deer hunting it's going to change. I think we'll still have a lot of people hunting, but I think there's going to be less young recruitment for people hunting. The reason for that is, as a young kid, if you go out and hunt for 4 or 5 hours, you freeze your butt off, and you don't see any deer, well, you're not going to enjoy that. So if you do that one weekend or the whole season, you're not going to think hunting is that great. So I think honestly, we got to get the wolves under control so that we can get our deer numbers back up to where they need to be, and then we'll have more hunter recruitment, and we'll be seeing bigger bucks, we'll be seeing more bucks, and I think getting the population back up a little bit will be a huge help.
Now, is the DNR working towards that, or what's their stance?
I think they underplayed how many wolves are in the state. They claim right now, I think it's 2,500 or 3,000 wolves in the state of Minnesota, and I could be off on those numbers. But let's just say that they're right, and there is only 2,000 wolves in the state of Minnesota. I believe there to be a lot more than that. But if there's only 2,000 wolves in the state of Minnesota, I talked to a guy who raises wolves. He claims that a wolf needs about 10 pounds of meat a day. So, a little bit of math. There's 2,000 wolves in the state of Minnesota. At 10 pounds of meat a day, that's roughly one deer per week per wolf. That is 52,000 or 104,000 deer being eaten every year in the state of Minnesota just by wolves.
Just by two
And
thousand.
just by 2,000 wolves. And that's if they each only eat one deer a week. And I mean, they really could eat two because there's only about 40 pounds of meat on a deer, 40, 50 pounds of meat. So if they're eating one deer a piece, that's 104,000. If they're eating two deer a piece, that's 208,000. The Minnesota deer population, last time I checked, was around 600,000 whitetails. Now you factor in, I believe hunters shot, I want to say it was either 27,000 or 127,000 deer last year. We'll just say 27,000 since I don't remember. So let's say 208,000 eaten by wolves, 27,000 killed by hunters. Let's factor in 30,000 car hits. That's maybe a little high. We'll say 30,000 car hits and miscellaneous diseases. Then you factor in coyotes and bobcats. You're looking at roughly close to half the population being killed every year in the state of Minnesota. That's not sustainable. That's not even possible. You can't imagine sustaining that type of predation on a 600,000 animal herd.
Nope. And it's sad. And I think, you get the traditional camps, just as we had in Wisconsin, traditional camps. I mean, grandfathers and their fathers, had been hunting. And all of a sudden, I know one such camp in Wisconsin, they don't see deer anymore. They still go up and they still play cards and they still have a great time and they talk about the old days. And they go out and once, they'll go out and sit a stand for a little bit and then they'll come back in because it's over.
Yep.
Literally, it's over. And I like what you say about recruitment because a kid, hey, he's going up to camp. He hears all the stories. Great. They get to camp and they do all the camp stuff. And then, the anticipation of opening day, open morning, you go out there and there's nothing to see. Well, I agree 100%. What kid's going to go, well, this isn't so fun. I want my iPad. I'm going to sit. I'm not going to freeze my butt off. You know,
Exactly.
why would they? I mean, literally, really, why would they?
There's very few kids that enjoy it like that. My younger brothers are really diehard. I have two younger brothers. One's 15 right now, and one's 13. The 15-year-old, when he was 13 years old, he literally spent 60 to 70 hours in a tree stand, bow hunting, rifle hunting, and muzzle loading. He never shot a deer, but he sat and sat and sat and sat, and he actually has not shot a buck other than a spike buck, and he's 15 years old. He's very selective on what he shoots, but he's one of the few kids where he's willing to put in that kind of time. He's willing to freeze his butt off. He enjoys it. My youngest brother, he'll go out. He went out last season in youth season, got a buck. Then he went out in rifle season, and he filled two more of our tags. He got 3 bucks in 1 year, all in the 120 class. So he's a lucky little bugger. He didn't have to put in the time, and it really makes his older brother a little bit jealous.
Well, yeah, think about it. He's got to be on a funnel or a pinch point. He's got a little honey hole going on where the deer are coming through.
Well, it was hilarious because he sat the 15-year-old Brody. He sat in a stand for a couple days, didn't see a deer, so he switched to a different stand. Nolan, the youngest one, went to his stand and got a buck that night.
Isn't that something?
So it's just wherever Nolan was sitting, he would get a deer.
Well, sometimes that's just the way it happens.
Exactly.
Say, let's let the listeners know about the Monster Deer Classic, how to get in touch with you, or how to find out more information about it.
So if people want to come to the show or want more information or want to be a vendor at the show, email me at minnesotamonsterbuckclassic@gmail.com, and that's mnmonsterbuckclassic@gmail.com. Or they can shoot me a text or give me a phone call. My number is 218-526-0318. Or they can go onto our website for the show. It's minnesotamonsterbuckclassic.com. You might have to put /index or /home. Just Google Minnesota Monster Buck Classic, or even go onto our Facebook page. We have a Minnesota Monster Buck Classic Facebook page, and we also have a Twitter for it as well. It gets Minnesota Monster Buck Classic on Twitter, or there's a lot of ways to contact me. My personal Twitter is @DeermanDP. So if you want to hit me up on there, there's a lot of ways to get a hold of me. Just make your choice.
Well, Dillan, thank you so much for being a guest. I learned some things that I frankly didn't know before. So on behalf of thousands of listeners across North America, thank you, Dillan Porter, for being a guest on Whitetail Rendezvous.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, we welcome Dave Schuler to the show today. And Dave's going to talk to us about being a reborn hunter. What's that all about? When he was a young kid, he used to go hunting with his friends, neighbors, father, cousins. He took his BB gun out and did some hunting, took his 22 out, did some hunting, took a shotgun out, did some hunting. Well, all that changed. He got into the military and he kind of drifted away from hunting. And then a friend of his invited him on an Arizona elk hunt. Anybody's hunted elk in Arizona, that's one heck of a hunt. And then Dave got so primed up for it, he picked up a bow and started shooting his bow and starting putting in for that Arizona tag. And he also got involved on the conservation side of the business and is very active in the Arizona Elk Society, and also started his little business himself called Twisted Juniper Outdoors. Dave's got a lot going for him, and I can't wait to share his story with you.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.